He builds rockets that land themselves, cars that drive themselves, and he openly plans to turn humanity into a multi-planetary species. To some, Elon Musk is the architect of the future, a man with a time horizon so vast that failure barely registers, a mind that seems immune to fear, setbacks, or humiliation. And yet this same man can shake global markets, cultures, and reputations with a single impulsive tweet. How can someone who watches rockets explode without flinching become so reactive to a stranger's comment online? Is Elon Musk a modern embodiment of Stoic resilience? Or is he a prisoner of his own ego, locked inside a golden cage of power, attention, and validation? Today, we place Elon Musk under the cold, unforgiving lens of Stoic philosophy. This is not a debate about intelligence. His genius is unquestionable. The real question is far more dangerous. Is his genius guided by wisdom? Welcome to the Stoic Lighthouse. This is where ancient wisdom cuts through modern confusion, where philosophy isn't comfort, but clarity, and where power, ambition, and character are judged by timeless standards. If you want that kind of clarity in your life, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this light reach more people navigating the chaos of the modern world. Today, we will dissect Elon Musk's mindset by weighing his greatest strengths and his most visible failures against the teachings of Stoic masters. 7 critical pieces of evidence, 1 philosophical verdict, and by the end, you may see not only Elon Musk differently, but yourself as well. Number 1, failure as fuel, the radical practice of Amor Fati. In a culture that treats failure as a personal defect, Elon Musk treats it as raw material. Most people experience failure as humiliation, as proof they were never good enough, as a signal to retreat, to lower expectations, to play smaller. Musk does the opposite. In the early days of SpaceX, the Falcon 1 rocket failed. Then it failed again, and then it failed a third time. Each explosion burned millions of dollars. Each one pushed the company closer to bankruptcy. By the 4th launch attempt, SpaceX had enough money for only one more try, one final shot before collapse. For most people, this level of repeated failure would trigger panic, self-doubt, and paralysis. Musk's response was almost disturbingly calm. He didn't dramatize the losses. He didn't collapse into self-pity. He didn't retreat to protect his ego. He analyzed the data. Each explosion wasn't a catastrophe, it was information. Each failure narrowed the path toward success. When the 4th rocket finally reached orbit, it didn't just save the company. It permanently changed the future of space exploration. Through a Stoic lens, this mindset has a name: Amor Fati. The love of fate, not tolerance, not endurance. Love. Marcus Aurelios trained his mind to see obstacles not as interruptions, but as instruments of progress. While facing war, disease, and political decay, he wrote a line that defines Stoic resilience. What stands in the way becomes the way. For Musk, the exploding rocket was not the end of the journey. It was the journey. The near collapse of Tesla wasn't an obstacle to innovation. It was the pressure that forced radical efficiency. Constraints didn't weaken him. They refined him. This goes far beyond the cliché of learning from mistakes. It is an active embrace of whatever reality delivers without resentment. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche later revived this idea, seeing it as the mark of a superior spirit. Nietzsche argued, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not for all eternity." Musk doesn't merely accept failure, he appears to need it. His famous belief that if things aren't failing, you're not innovating enough is amor fati translated into modern engineering language. This is why thinkers like Nassim Nicholas Taleb would describe Musk as anti-fragile. Taleb explains, "The anti-fragile doesn't just survive chaos, it benefits from it. It requires stress and disorder to grow stronger." Musk's resilience in the face of catastrophic failure isn't accidental. It reflects a mind trained to detach personal identity from outcomes. Explosions are not verdicts on his worth, they are steps in a process. In this domain, at least, Elon Musk demonstrates something unmistakably Stoic. He does not ask for an easier path, he asks for a meaningful one, and he accepts whatever that path demands. Number 2. Thinking in decades, indifference to short-term noise. Most leaders live inside the next quarter, the next earnings report, the next headline, the next wave of approval or outrage. Elon Musk doesn't. While markets panic over short-term fluctuations and media cycles churn endlessly, Musk operates on a different clock. His stated goals are not designed to pay off next year. Some may not fully materialize within his lifetime. Colonizing Mars, making humanity multiplanetary, accelerating the global transition to sustainable energy. These are not quarterly objectives, they are generational bets. From a Stoic perspective, this reveals a powerful mental discipline, indifference to what does not matter in the long run. The Stoics categorized most external events as indifference. Public opinion, praise, ridicule, media narratives. None of these determine virtue. None deserve emotional obedience. Epictetus built his entire philosophy around this separation. He warned that tying one's peace of mind to external judgment is a form of voluntary slavery. Epictetus taught, if you want to make progress, be content to appear foolish or ignorant. What matters is not how you are seen, but whether you live according to reason. Musk appears remarkably comfortable appearing foolish. He proposed reusable rockets when the aerospace industry laughed. He pushed electric vehicles when automakers dismissed them as toys. He absorbed ridicule without retreating from the mission. This does not mean he ignores reality. It means he ignores noise. Modern leadership theory echoes this Stoic insight. Simon Sinek describes the difference between finite and infinite games. Finite players obsess over winning the next round. Infinite players focus on sustaining the mission. Musk is clearly playing the infinite game. His metric of success is not the stock price tomorrow morning. It is whether human consciousness survives beyond a single planet. That level of temporal detachment is rare, and it is powerful. It allows a person to withstand mockery, volatility, and temporary loss without abandoning direction. It creates strategic calm in a culture addicted to immediacy. In this domain, Elon Musk displays a core Stoic strength. He does not let short-term opinion rewrite long-term purpose. And that alone places him far above most modern leaders. Number 3, duty over comfort, life as a mission, not a lifestyle. Elon Musk is famous for something most billionaires avoid. Work, not curated productivity, not symbolic effort. Actual grinding, uncomfortable work. He has slept on factory floors, worked weeks without breaks, and openly dismissed the idea that comfort is something to be optimized. From the outside, this looks like obsession. Through a Stoic lens, it looks like something else entirely, duty. For the Stoics, life was not about happiness or pleasure. It was about fulfilling one's role in the larger order of things with excellence. The question was never, how can I feel good, but what is required of me? Marcus Aurelios ruled an empire under constant pressure. He could have lived in luxury. Instead, he chose hardship because duty demanded it. He reminded himself, the task of a human being is to be useful. If I do what benefits the community, what more do I need? Musk consistently frames his work in similar terms. He does not describe himself as chasing wealth. He describes himself as serving a mission he believes is necessary for humanity's survival. Sustainable energy, technological resilience, a backup plan for civilization. This framing matters. When life becomes a mission, sacrifice stops feeling like punishment. Long hours, stress, and personal discomfort become part of the price of responsibility. Modern philosophy echoes this Stoic insight. Gareth Southwell describes meaning as something that emerges not from comfort, but from commitment. A life organized around a purpose larger than oneself generates endurance. It gives suffering a direction. Musk's refusal to prioritize comfort is not accidental. It reflects a worldview in which personal ease is secondary to collective obligation. Like the Stoic exemplars before him, he trades pleasure for function. He exchanges lifestyle optimization for mission completion. In this respect, Elon Musk aligns closely with Stoic discipline. He does not ask whether the work feels good. He asks whether the work matters, and then he does it. Number 4, the tyranny of the tweet, a complete lack of temperance. If Elon Musk's greatest strength is long-term vision, his greatest weakness lives in the moment, specifically in his thumbs. While Musk can endure years of failure in engineering, he often reacts instantly to criticism online. A comment, a joke, a challenge to his status. And suddenly, markets shake, controversies explode, and credibility erodes. From a Stoic perspective, this is not a minor flaw. It is a fundamental one. Temperance, self-control, was one of the 4 cardinal Stoic virtues. Without it, intelligence becomes dangerous. Power becomes unstable. Epictetus warned relentlessly about this exact problem. He taught that impressions arrive uninvited, but reactions are always a choice. Epictetus warned, "Do not let the force of an impression carry you away. Say to it, 'Wait for me a moment. Let me see who you are and what you represent.'" Musk does not wait. He responds. He escalates. He performs. Instead of pausing, he amplifies. Instead of restraint, he chooses expression. And each impulsive response chips away at the authority his long-term vision creates. This is not strategic communication. It is emotional reflex. Seneca, who understood how quickly anger destroys judgment, offered a simple remedy. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Musk rarely delays. The result is a pattern: regulatory conflicts, reputational damage, unnecessary enemies. None of these advance his mission. All of them distract from it. From a Stoic lens, this reveals a dangerous imbalance. A man capable of mastering complex systems, yet frequently unable to master a moment of irritation. Temperance is not silence. It is selectivity. And here, Elon Musk consistently fails the Stoic test. Number 5, the hunger for validation, betraying the dichotomy of control. There is a contradiction at the center of Elon Musk's psychology. When it comes to his mission, he ignores public opinion with near total indifference. When it comes to his ego, he reacts to it obsessively. Why does a man with unprecedented power feel compelled to argue with anonymous critics online? Why engage journalists, short sellers, or meme accounts as if their approval mattered? From a Stoic perspective, the answer is simple and troubling. Validation. This is a direct violation of the most foundational Stoic principle, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus built Stoicism on a single distinction. Some things are up to us, most things are not. Peace comes from never confusing the two. He warned, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment about it. Public opinion is not controllable. Reputation is not controllable. Praise and ridicule belong entirely to others, and yet Musk repeatedly hands them power. His online behavior suggests a deep sensitivity to how he is perceived. He wants to be admired, to be seen as right, to be the smartest person in the room. And when that image is challenged, he responds not with indifference, but with combat. Marcus Aurelios struggled with this same temptation. As emperor, he received constant praise and criticism. His private writings reveal a man reminding himself again and again not to crave either. He reflected, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others unless they benefit the common good." Musk often does the opposite. Instead of conserving attention for his mission, he spends it defending his image. Instead of internalizing value, he seeks confirmation. This is not strength, it is dependency. A Stoic measures himself by virtue. Musk often measures himself by reaction. As a result, his emotional equilibrium becomes vulnerable to forces completely outside his control. A single insult can provoke a response. A single narrative can hijack focus. In Stoic terms, this is not freedom, it is captivity. Number 6. Humanity or ego? The collapse of Sympatheia. Up to this point, the defense has framed Elon Musk as a man serving humanity. But Stoicism demands a deeper question, not what you claim to serve, but how you treat the people in front of you. Stoicism is not a solitary philosophy. It rests on Sympatheia, the belief that all human beings are part of one shared moral community. To act virtuously is to act with justice, empathy, and respect toward others as equals. Here, Musk's record becomes problematic. His public treatment of employees, mass layoffs delivered with indifference, dismissive language toward critics, a tendency to frame disagreement as hostility. These are not small details. They reveal orientation. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, imagined an ideal society where all human beings would be fellow citizens, living under a common law, like a single herd sharing the same pasture. This vision requires humility. It requires seeing others not as obstacles, tools, or liabilities, but as moral equals. Musk often does not. His mission rhetoric speaks of saving humanity. His behavior often suggests managing it, directing it, forcing it forward regardless of individual cost. That distinction matters. A Stoic does not justify harm with outcomes. Justice is not optional, even in service of grand goals. Marcus Aurelios reminded himself that power did not excuse cruelty. He reflected, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." When leaders detach from this principle, missions quietly turn into monuments to ego. The question is not whether Musk's projects benefit humanity. Many of them clearly do. The question is whether humanity is the goal or the stage. From a Stoic perspective, intention and conduct cannot be separated. A mission that disregards sympathy, justice, and shared dignity fails the ethical test, no matter how visionary it appears. And here, Elon Musk's Stoic alignment collapses, not because of ambition, but because of orientation. Number 7. The final verdict. A titan with feet of clay. The Stoic court now delivers its verdict. The case of Elon Musk is deeply paradoxical. The defense presented a modern titan, a man with extraordinary resilience, capable of turning failure into fuel. A thinker who operates on generational timelines, immune to short-term panic. A figure willing to sacrifice comfort in service of a mission larger than himself. The prosecution exposed the fractures beneath that power. A man ruled by impulse in moments that demand restraint. A leader vulnerable to validation and public opinion. A visionary whose treatment of others often contradicts the ethics of shared humanity. So the question must be answered plainly. Is Elon Musk a Stoic? The answer is no, but it is not a simple no. Elon Musk is what happens when Stoic tools are separated from Stoic wisdom. He has mastered endurance, discipline, and long-term focus. He understands how to suffer, how to persist, how to absorb pressure without breaking. In that sense, he has built the hardware of Stoicism. What he lacks is the ethical software: temperance, justice, sympatheia, mastery of ego. Heraclitus, whose thought deeply influenced the Stoics, offered a warning that feels painfully relevant. It is harder to fight against pleasure than against pain. Musk has proven exceptional at enduring pain. Failure does not stop him. Risk does not intimidate him. Loss does not weaken his resolve. But pleasure is another matter. The pleasure of winning arguments, the pleasure of attention, the pleasure of dominance. This is where his character destabilizes. The final judgment, then, is this. Elon Musk is not a Stoic sage, he is a modern myth, a titan with feet of clay, capable of reshaping civilization, yet vulnerable to the most ordinary human weaknesses, brilliant at engineering systems, inexperienced at engineering the self. And that contradiction is precisely what makes him so dangerous and so instructive, because he proves a timeless Stoic truth. Power without wisdom magnifies flaws, vision without virtue distorts purpose. And conquering the external world means nothing if the internal one remains unconquered. The judgment of Elon Musk leaves us with a lesson far more important than praise or condemnation. He shows us what is possible when resilience, focus, and long-term vision are pushed to their limits. He proves that a human being can endure extraordinary pressure, absorb failure, and reshape the future through sheer will and discipline. But he also exposes the cost of neglecting inner mastery. Stoicism was never about building empires, companies, or rockets. It was about building character. Without temperance, power becomes unstable. Without justice, vision becomes distortion. Without self-mastery, even genius becomes fragile. Elon Musk reminds us of a timeless truth. Conquering the external world is impressive. Conquering the internal one is essential. Now, the verdict passes to you. After hearing the evidence, what is your conclusion? Is Elon Musk a heroic but flawed visionary, or a dangerous example of power without wisdom? Leave your judgment in the comments. Thoughtful disagreement is part of philosophy. If this analysis gave you a new perspective, like this video so this message can reach more people. Share it with someone who admires or criticizes Elon Musk, and let the conversation continue. And if you want more clear-eyed philosophy applied to modern power, ambition, and character, subscribe to the Stoic Lighthouse. In the next video, we will confront a question that shaped Western civilization itself, a confrontation between discipline and faith, reason and revelation. Two moral traditions that seem opposed, yet may share deeper roots than most people realize. The conclusions will challenge both believers and skeptics alike. We'll leave you with a reminder that echoes far beyond ancient Stoicism. Of what use is it to conquer the world if you cannot conquer yourself? See you in the next video.